Hi, it's Stephen Shalowitz here from the One Way Ticket Show. I'm excited to announce our new YouTube channel where we're taking some of our classic episodes and releasing new ones as well. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and also when you're there, ring that bell so you never miss an episode. From New York City, I'm Stephen Shalowitz, and this is the One Way Ticket Show. Hello and welcome once again to another episode of the show where we explore with our guests where they'd go if given a one-way ticket, no coming back. Their destinations may be in the past, present, future, real, imaginary, or even a state of mind, but once again, folks, the only caveat, there's no coming back. Now, you can listen to all episodes on our website, theonewayticketshow.com. Once again, theonewayticketshow.com. Or on iTunes or Stitcher, just search for The One Way Ticket Show. And of course, while you're at it, do rate and review us to make it easier for more folks around the world to find us. And as we go to air, we have nearly 170 episodes to choose from, which include conversations with the likes of Joel Grey, Dick Cavett, Alan Dershowitz, Anthony Scaramucci, Charles Osgood, Pauline Fromer, Mo Rocca, and many more. Plus, would love to hear from you. Write to me at Stephen@theonewayticketshow.com. That's Stephen with a V. And let's chat because I'm always up for a great conversation. As for this episode, we've left the studio once again and have headed this time to Brooklyn, where our very special guest is Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams. Now, before taking the reins of New York City's largest borough, the BP, now in his second term, served as a New York State Senator. Prior to that, he served for 22 years as a New York City police officer. And if that weren't enough, perhaps the borough president's greatest achievement was turning vegan, which completely changed his life and the life of so many others. We'll talk about that and, of course, his one-way ticket destination. But first, we'd like to welcome Borough President Eric Adams aboard the One Way Ticket Show. And we thank you, sir, for inviting us into your offices here at Brooklyn Borough Hall.
Thank you so much. And we like to call this the People's House. And out of the many guests we have had here, I don't think any of them had a more smoother voice than yours.
That's very kind of you, sir. I think you have a mighty smooth voice there yourself. So I think I see podcasting in your future. And indeed, we'll talk about your future at the end of our conversation. But before anything else, I do want to get to your one-way ticket destination. Borough President Adams, if I gave you a one-way ticket, and you know the drill, past, present, future, real, imaginary, state of mind, where would you go?
Sumer, and to live among the Sumerians, because I believe, although your show is one-way ticket, I'm a firm believer in reincarnation, and I'm a firm believer that our bodies may die, but our spirits live on, and we will always return. And there's so much to learn during that time that is unanswered. And in order to learn, I believe we have to unlearn and really reach back into those days when there was so much knowledge on the earth and it was not looked down upon. It was really the goal to continue to expand and to grow.
Do you think that you once lived in ancient Sumer?
Yes, I do. I believe that it resonates with me internally, the life, their ability to move beyond this planet. There's just so many unanswered questions. How did they know so much about our solar system without having gone, according to modern times, without having gone to or out of space? Space travel was not even acknowledged to those who live in today's time, when they were just so knowledgeable, even in the whole thought of some of our religious philosophy, having the first early known writing to man, and just their ability to explore this whole concept of life. And it just really sheds the arrogancy that we have, that life began with us, and that we're the only ones that really understood this planet, where there were so many more societies prior to that.
And of course, in case our listeners need a refresher from their school days, we should say that the Sumerian civilization was situated in ancient days in southern Mesopotamia and present-day Kuwait in southern Iraq. Have you been there, by the way?
No, I have not. I was supposed to go to Iran earlier this year, but because of the national turmoil, my visa was denied. But I'm looking forward to revisiting. I'm going to travel to Jordan and Oman in the end of January. There's just something about that region that really speaks to me. I've been to the UAE in Israel, in other parts of that region. I want to continue to explore that region.
We'll have to have a separate conversation about Iran because I visited there about 11 years ago, and it's a fascinating country. But just getting back to ancient Sumer, what was some of the knowledge that they possessed that you think was lost through the generations?
In accumulation, their conversation on and their belief about the early creation of man and how man was really planted through space travel and what they consider to be Planet X that will continue to come back into our galaxy or our universe in the years to come. And now that scientists are actually talking about this next planet that is possibly out there, but we can't identify exactly. But many of their thoughts about how the gold was to be created to really mine gold to be used as a fuel, and the accumulation of the DNA of man and how man came about. It just really has always sparked my interest that we are much more than how we have dismissed some of those ancient societies and ancient cultures.
And what would you like to do there?
The seeds they planted, from our writings to really understanding some of the scientific discoveries, utilize those seeds to see how do we become better human beings. I think we've gone off track, particularly in European societies. We have, after wars and after conquering great civilizations, we have forced upon them our lifestyle, and we've turned some of the true knowledge into paganism. When you look at some of those societies that understood meditation, that understood how we're connected, how we have actually dismissed those concepts and thoughts. And now that we have started to explore the mind and we have started to look at what meditation does, what the centralization of humankind and living being, we're realizing how wrong we were, and I believe they had an understanding of that.
And you meditate, don't you?
I meditate twice a day. I use various methods to do so and really tap into the various beats that our minds, from being in delta state, alpha state, and other states that allow our minds. When we sleep, we go into various states. When we are under high stress, we go into various states. And so I use the meditation to really maintain and even kill as I deal with some of the complexities of life.
What would you like to show them from our time today? And do you think that they would be surprised to see some of our technology? Because they were very technologically advanced, really, as you hinted at.
I think just the opposite. I think they would look at us today and say, how did we reverse so much? How did we become so brutal and barbaric in the things that we do, everything from surgery to how we eat? They ate from the land. I believe that we look at ourselves and believe that we are so far advanced. In actuality, I think we've regressed, not because we don't have the ability, is because we are not open to really appreciate the full scope of our existence. To them, I believe they will look and say it is unimaginable that the being has basically reverted to the belief that we only see, speak, smell, taste, those five senses. They were far more beyond that. They understood that we were so much more than five senses. And so they would teach us that we have to unlearn so we can learn and find out our true purpose and our true existence.
You being a vegan, certainly you wouldn't have gone hungry there.
No, not at all. I remember one reading that I did when they talk about Christianity, and the voice hears someone says, "Let there be light," and the person said, "There's already light." What is this person talking about? They talking about, let us create man. They said, we're already created. What are you talking about? And so it just really explores how on some of these original writings, how far advanced they were, and we have a lot to catch up to. And veganism is something that was very much part of their desire to eat from the land.
Sure, because barley was consumed there, also chickpeas, lentils, beans, garlic, onion, fruits, vegetables. So they had a very robust and a very healthy diet, didn't they?
Yes, they did. They understood the power of food and how food impacted them, and they understood that how important the land would continue to feed them. They were not destructive to the land. As I shared with a young lady earlier today, we have two mothers. One gave birth to us and the other sustains us, and we are often brutal to Mother Earth that is here to sustain us. She would provide for us on a continuous rotative balance if we will only allow her to do so and stop continue to destroy her.
I would have to imagine that there are parallels, similarities between ancient Sumer and Brooklyn. Don't you think?
Yes, I do. And I think at the heart of it is creativity. I believe that this borough is becoming a Mecca for creative spirits, where people are no longer living inside the box and they're not even attempting to step outside the box. The goal is to destroy the box and create a new paradigm and give us an opportunity to go beyond ourselves. People are ready to be free. They're ready to heal, and they're ready to live outside those limited boundaries that were created before. And I think that's what ancient Sumer was about.
And by the way, they were both centers for beer production, because they were putting all that barley to use in making beer. And of course, Brooklyn beer is quite famous, isn't it?
Yes. I cannot imagine people will waste good barley by not making a good beer.
And listen, it's vegan, right?
That's right.
Okay. What do you hope to get out of that experience then, Borough President, by going back to ancient Sumer?
I think when you look at people like Musk from Tesla.
Sure, Elon Musk.
One would look at Elon and say, okay, he's having a difficult time at Tesla. He has failed. And I say just the opposite. As he explore the possibilities of creating an inflatable house to be built on the moon, to use it as a launching pad to actually have life on Mars. The reason that to many people that he may have failed at Tesla is because they're still on Earth, and he has started to use his mind to move beyond the limited boundaries of here being on Earth. And I think that's what living in Sumer would do. It will give me the opportunity of going backwards to move forward spiritually. And that evolution is important.
And then just final thing before we move on to other topics, how do you think ancient Sumer affects you on a daily basis? Because clearly it does, and it's clearly something that you thought about long before I asked you the question.
It moves you spiritually to possibilities. And I think people start their day every day believing that this is all it is. When you know there's so much more, then you're not really restricted in what the possibilities are. And by the seeing what that society was, it allows me to know that we are far much more and the possibilities are endless.
All right, said. Borough President, I want to continue our conversation now talking about you and your vegan journey in our The One-Way Ticket Show Extra. Okay, Borough President, before we talk about your vegan journey, can you share with us a couple of hidden gems that you enjoy most here in Brooklyn that people should visit that they might not think about otherwise?
Brooklyn is an amazing place with amazing locations, and you can just find just about everything you're looking for. And it's some things that are touristy, such as our aquarium, which is amazing, or Coney Island, which used to be the play location for the entire country. But there's other hidden locations like the House of Yes, Brooklyn Bowl, or going to Brooklyn Bridge Park, which is an amazing, beautiful structure that was created, or hanging out just under the Brooklyn Bridge at some of the local eateries. We are foodie, our places to eat. People come here to enjoy. Looking at some of the new neighborhoods, we have one of the largest Russian-speaking populations in the entire country. We have one of the largest Chinese populations as well. The real hidden gem is the appreciation for the diversity of the borough. 47% of the borough speaks a language other than English at home. If you immerse yourself in the diverse cultures that are here, you're going to come away with developing your full personhood. That is our real gem that I just enjoy.
Human gems.
Yes, it is.
Oh, listen, I mentioned at the top of the show and just a moment ago, you're becoming vegan, which not only changed your life, I know it changed your mother's life as well. It changed many other lives. It's a great inspiration for me as I'm on my own vegan journey. So for our listeners that might not be familiar with your vegan path, can you talk to us a little bit about that seminal moment where you said to yourself, I have to change my life?
And that is so important because I believe no change of a major proportion will ever take place until the person inside makes the decision that now is the time. And I think that is why it's important for those who go to AA or NA. The first thing you have to do is acknowledge where you are in your life. There's a reason they really call for you to say, I am an alcoholic. Because if you're in denial of where you are, you could never change that. And when I was told I was diabetic with the loss of my sight in my left eye and losing my sight in my right, permanent nerve damage in my hands and feet that they stated was irreversible, as well as other indicators from the blood work that I received that stated that I was at an advanced level of diabetes. The doctor said he's surprised I was not in a coma because of how bad my sugar had received at that level. And when I decided that the doctors, just what they were telling me, did not resonate with me, I believe our spirit knows truth. And the truth was not there when they stated that I would be on medicine the rest of my life. It was inevitable that I was going to be diabetic because my family had a history of diabetes. And I sought outside of that. And I was able to find amazing physicians that were part of the Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine. They told me the things that I can do. One of them was Dr. Esselton in Ohio Cleveland Clinic. After visiting him and reading Dr. Greger's book, How Not to Die, and Dr. Barnett's book, Reversing Diabetes, and just really allowing myself to open to the possibilities, I was able to reverse my vision loss, my nerve damage, and reverse the diabetes, and learned that it was never about merely my DNA. It was always about my dinner. And my mother followed me, and after being a diabetic for 15 years, 7 years insulin, 80 years old, able to get off her insulin in 2 months when she went to a whole food, plant-based diet. It's the food. It's the food.
It's remarkable that she was so on board with it because it's difficult to change your lifestyle at any age, especially when you're in advanced years.
It is, and she's a Southerner, an African-American woman from the southern part of the country where you are really not only given certain foods that your taste bud and your palate is used to, but you're almost brainwashed to believe this is what you are supposed to eat in order to be healthy. And there was never really a history lesson to connect the historical slavery role in the African-American diet. It must be horrific to our ancestors when they think that the food that the slave master forced them to eat we call soul food. We took dangerous food and turned it into a delicacy, and we ensured that every generation that followed will continue to be poisoned. Every time we hand down the recipe from our great-great-great-grandmother, we also handed down the recipe for diabetes, for heart disease, and other mental illness that food is associated with. And so it's time to break the chains. We are off the plantation physically. Now we have to do it emotionally.
Well, what I love about your story is that you've not only changed your life, your mother's life, you're obviously an exceptional son, so kudos to you. And I'm sure she wouldn't disagree with that, would she?
My mother is spoiled.
All right. That's what mothers are for. And I'm sure she spoils you as well. And they love to do that.
Yes, they do.
But as a leader should really inspire. And so you've inspired not only your family, but your community and Brooklynites and people throughout New York City. And you're really not only walking the walk, you're talking the talk, and you're making inroads in hospitals, in schools, with those that are incarcerated. And can you talk a little bit about that? Because you are really creating this whole wave of a plant-based diet for a large segment of the population.
And you're correct. Leaders are not only supposed to be informational, they should be inspirational. People don't get out of bed because of information. They get out because of inspiration. And people are hurting and they're ready to heal. They're tired of not believing and having hope that they can reverse the conditions and disease that they're looking to face every day. And not only what it does to you physically, what it does to you emotionally, to be a caregiver. The person who's going through the actual illness and the person who's a caregiver is also impact. And so what we want to do here in Brooklyn is just really change that paradigm. We want to explore ways to bring people forward in eating healthy and reversing disease. And we don't want people to meet me where I am. Our team wants to meet people where they are and take them where they ought to be. So that's why we're doing Meatless Mondays in all of our schools in the city, which is an amazing initiative.
In the city?
In the city. We're going to do Meatless Mondays in all of our health and hospitals, one of the largest hospital networks in the entire country. We're going to go to Meatless Mondays. We are looking to move schools to vegetarians or vegan diets. We're being information here in the borough where we're doing veg curious meetups where people are learning how to be a vegan and a whole food plant-based lifestyle. We're looking to really encourage our schools to start growing food and using modern technologies such as hydroponics to grow within the classroom, and we're partnering with schools to do. The goal is to see a greenhouse in every Brooklyn school so that children can grow food right there and feed themselves in the school and feed the communities that they're around. We're building greenhouses on public housing ground, NYCHA, we call it here in New York City, where people don't have access to healthy food and there's a lot of food insecurity. We're changing how people make the connection between their health and what they are eating, and we're excited about it. One of the biggest things we're doing that is clearly exciting is the whole oldest hospital here in America is Bellevue Hospital. We opened the first plant-based unit within that hospital that's going to treat people with these diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, which is leading to so many other diseases. It's an amazing initiative, and we're excited about the outcome and the possibilities.
So when I was doing my homework for our conversation today, and I Googled Eric Adams, of course I saw photos of you today, but of course I also saw photos of you from years ago. And I thought to myself, who is this guy? You look completely different. There's such a transformation. And frankly, you look younger now than you did probably 5-10 years ago.
And feel better. I think that sometimes our visual presentation is different from our actual representation of who we are. And I probably looked like a person that ate well and lived a good lifestyle. That was a physical picture. I needed to take an internal selfie, and that internal selfie revealed that my body was breaking down. I had an ulcer, I had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, all of those issues. And to see them come in complete reversal in such a short period of time really is remarkable, and it's really the wonder of the human body. This is a great machine if we give it the right fuel and the right oil to allow it to live for a long time. And not only longevity, because the goal is not to live forever. Mortality is part of the human experience, but it's about living healthy. Don't live to be 90 if you can't identify your children, your grandchildren, because you have Alzheimer's, or that you can't stand up and walk, or that you're being propped up. So anytime Americans pride themselves to say people with heart disease are now living longer, yes, they're living longer, but they're not living a quality of life.
That's the key, is the quality of life.
Life is not existing. It is living. That's what we're supposed to do. Not merely exist, but live.
I agree 100%. I'm so super mindful of the clock. So just a couple other points before you have to push off, because you have a whole borough here to run after all. But I do want to have you back on the program. You have organized your life, though. I know that before you go to an event, because you're invited to countless events, you do eat beforehand, and you also travel with food as well. So the general thought there is always be prepared, that you're always mindful of what you're eating or what you might potentially eat in a particular day.
I was amazed to discover how much I allowed my events and schedule to dictate the food that I ate at a particular time. That has turned itself on its head. Now the center of my existence is to make sure I am fueling my body with the right food that it needs. I no longer live to eat, I eat to live. And so if I'm going to attend an event that doesn't have a real good plant-based option, then I will eat before I get there and just have the customary salad to basically show that I'm being hospitable. If I have to travel on the road, I would carry in my little cooler bag or thermal bag the food that I could eat while I'm out on the road. So I really build into my day. I look at my schedule, which is an extremely busy schedule. We could have anywhere from 12 to 13 different events in a day. I look at my day and decide how am I going to make sure at the times I want to eat that I will have the food available to me that I am allowed to eat.
We must have been separated at birth because whenever I travel, I always take things like instant oatmeal, some protein bars, some fruit, some dried fruit, nuts, because you land at some place at 2 a.m. and you're hungry and there's nothing to eat. But
So
you can
true.
always get hot boiling water.
So true, so true.
So there you go. Speaking of food, and then just one final question. I was speaking with Lisa Lavero, who is the managing editor of Shape magazine. Dear friend, she was a guest on the program. She knew that I was going to be speaking with you today. She said, can you please ask him what he does for cheese? She said, because she loves her lasagna and she is on her own vegan path. She said, but I don't know what to do about the cheese.
That is.
So what do you have to say to Lisa there?
Lisa, we could take that question mark and straighten it to an exclamation point that there are so many vegan cheese options. One of my favorites is what I learned to cook using chickpea flour and nutritional yeast. You bring it to a boil in the pot. Then you pour it out, put whatever seasoning you want inside there, put it in the fridge, let it chill, and you would not know the difference between American cheese. And it melts if you wanted to melt it on lasagna. It is a great alternative, but there are just so many options out there in the internet vegan universe.
Would you share that with me? And I'm going to post that on the show notes page of our website for not only Lisa, but for those of us that are also looking for a good vegan cheese. And finally, as we wind down our conversation, again, I want to have you back on the show because tons more to talk about. Borough President, what's the future looking like for the Borough President? What does he have in mind?
I've never kept it a secret. So many politicians will play this coy game of what they would like to do at the next step, and I don't believe that. I believe the public has always desired honesty and communications. My next goal is to move and become the mayor of the city of New York. I believe the unique life that I lived as a police officer, as a legislator, and now the borough president of the largest borough in the city of New York, it gives me a very unique perspective of what the city needs to move forward. And I would like to continue to serve and protect the city. I took an oath as a police officer to serve and protect. That oath has not changed as I move forward, and we want to continue to raise healthy children and families. And the mayor has a major impact on the quality of life of New Yorkers. And the way goes New York goes the entire country, and this country impacts the entire globe, so we want to start impacting it in the right way.
Mr. Borough President, we're going to leave it right there. We want to thank you for joining us here on the One Way Ticket Show, and we look forward to having you back again.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have information about the Borough President and that cheese recipe of his on the show notes page of our website, theonewayticketshow.com. And if you haven't already, do subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes and Stitcher to make it easier for more folks around the world to find us. Once again, shoot me an email, Stephen@theonewayticketshow.com. That's Stephen with a V. And let's chat because I'm always up for a great conversation. Meantime, it's a wrap for this edition of the One Way Ticket Show. For Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams and the entire crew, I'm Stephen Shalowitz, and we'll see you next time.